Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third episode of The Clinch. Today we'll be reviewing UFC 202. On the show today we got Jay Martin, first time on the show. And we got Keith Robert as always. Last week we had Jay Gibbs on the show. Jay, thanks for being on. Great job. You took the clinch on short notice. We appreciate that. We're going to start it out. I'm going to kick it to you, Jay. How did you get into MMA and how long have you been watching?
I've been watching MMA for, now close to about 15 years. I was a big boxing head when I was younger. Loved boxing.
I can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you. Could you hear him?
I can hear you. Go ahead and plug that mic back in.
Want me to plug it back in?
Yeah, plug that back in. We'll work with that.
This is great entertainment right now.
Better?
We're taking out Mike and Mike next.
Better? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. All right, better? Okay. Well, like I said, I was a big boxing head growing up. From, when I was 6 years old, I'm watching boxing, Saturday day boxing on CBS. Up until, I'm from Clinch, Rhode Island, so Vinny Paz is big over here. He was a big boxer, so I was always into combat sports. And then once MMA started coming on, I really didn't stop following it until like when the Forrest Griffin craze came around, right around that top finale. And ever since then, I've just loved the sport. It's just I'm still big boxing guy first, boxing guy hot, but MMA is a close second for me.
All right, thank you for that, Jay. We're introducing a new segment today. We're going to do what we're going to call a speed bag segment, speed bag sessions, where it's like a real quick, pretty rapid fire, one thought thing about each fight from, we're going to start with the fight pass prelims. All right, Keith, I'm going to kick to you first on each of these, and then
All right.
Jay, as soon as Keith is finished up, whenever that may be, we know it's like a ramble, you can hop right in after Keith.
Sounds good.
All right, first fight on the prelims was Alberto Uda versus Marvin Vettori. Vettori won by submission in round one.
All right, I'll keep it short because we're starting a little late because Jay just got out of his a meeting with his parole officer, so keep it real short. Yeah, Marvin Vettori versus Albert Uda, also known as Albert Pereira. It's an Italian fighter. Vettori won. He won by submission. He locked on a guillotine choke. It was really impressive because he's going against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He was behind. He had back control from behind and came out in front and snapped on this guillotine. It was really nice when you don't see that technique a lot from that to be from behind and jump out in front. It is what it is. I don't believe in Italian MMA. There really isn't much to follow there. Let's be honest, I dog European MMA altogether. There's a handful of European fighters that are pretty good, and the rest is still way behind. American, Brazil, and even the Russian movement coming in. So, it is what it is. Italy is not going to have the best grapplers, so I'm not going to get too excited about this. There's probably a better chance of Joey Torres winning Jeopardy than an Italian fighter winning a UFC belt. So, go fuck yourself, Joey.
Wow.
All right, go ahead, Jay.
Actually, I was impressed with Vettori. I didn't hear too much about him before this fight. The guy he was fighting, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, he's a vet, tough vet. So for him to beat him at his own game was pretty impressive. Plus, he's a fellow Paisan, so I was happy. We haven't had one since Alessio Sakara, so we got to take whatever we can get. But I thought it was an impressive win. The kid looked good, good shape. Like I said, beat the guy at his own game. I don't know much. I don't think he's got much stand-up, but he seemed like a pretty good grappler, pretty good on the ground. And for a UFC debut from a guy from Italy who, like Keith said, doesn't have a huge MMA program, it was an impressive win. We'll see what he does from here. I don't think he's any more than like a C+ guy, but we'll see.
Anybody whose last name ends with a vowel, Jay will love.
He's my second favorite fighter.
Vettori, Villagacci.
Right after McGregor.
Corleone.
Second fight on that prelims card was Colby Covington winning by knockout in round 3 over Max Griffin. Keith, any special thoughts about that?
I mean, Colby Covington. I mean, it was a short notice fight for Griffin. Griffin's he's not a UFC level fighter. If at best he's a fight pass opener. Covington's now 5-1 in UFC. He's a wrestler. He's a great wrestler. He is a Division I wrestler. And he's also actually pretty good with the mic. He has this attitude with him. He has a chip on his shoulder. I think he needs to step up in competition. I'm not saying he's ready for a top 10 guy, but at least a guy in top 30. Now that he's 5-1, he reminds me of a more athletic, younger John Fitch type, where he's just going to grind people out. And John Fitch, Jake Shields, those guys are pretty successful with that style. And Covington's young. He's really young, so I would like to at least see him on a Fox Sports 1 card, on a main card, not stuck in a prelims, fight pass prelims.
Jay, any thoughts?
I think Covington, he looked good. I know Keith would love him because he's a fellow leg humper. But I know he was a 2-time, I think, Pac-10 all-conference wrestler. So the guy's got legit, right? Pac-10 through UCLA?
He got kicked out of school for, He got kicked out of school for starting too many fights.
Yep. Yeah, he seems like he's got. Yeah, he seems like he's got that mean streak in him. I saw him at the end of the fight with Griffin. He kind of brushed off his shoulders to Griffin and did a thing yeah, I beat your ass, that type of thing. But he's a hell of a grappler, world-class grappler, world-class wrestler. Like Keith said, though, I think he needs to step up and come.
Very good wrestler. Managed 6 takedowns in that fight.
Yeah.
6 for 9 in takedowns. So, speaks for itself. Next fight on the card was Lorenz Larkin winning by knockout in the first round over Neil Magny. Keith, did you see that coming?
No, I picked Magny to win. It's an absolute shame that this fight was stuck on Fight Pass because this should have been the 4th fight from the top. This should have. You got 2 guys. I think Magny. I think we had him ranked either 10th or maybe in the honorable mention in our rankings, and Larkin not too far behind. To me, this is by far the best performance of Larkin's career. He took on Magny, who was on this crazy win streak, which now puts Larkin. He's won 4 of his last 5 fights in the UFC. I would argue he won 5 out of 5. I thought he beat Albert Tumanov, but the key to his last 3 fights between Tumanov, Masvidal, and now Magny is these leg kicks. If you watch the fight was over in the first minute. Magny looked absolutely shell-shocked. He didn't know what to do with the leg kicks. And Larkin did it over and over again. He tagged him up on the feet. And when Magny shot in, he just did those Travis Brown-style elbows. I think he's going to crack our top 10. If not, he'll at least be in our honorable mention. I would really like to see him, to get another top 10 opponent, maybe Kelvin Gastelum or maybe even Johnny Hendricks. I mean, this guy already has a win over Robbie Lawler. I mean, it was years ago, but
Right.
I think he's 28 or 29, so he hasn't even reached his peak yet. He's a free agent, so they need to sign him. It'd be a shame if he went to Bellator. Not as much as Rory McDonald's a shame, but I really hope the UFC doesn't lose him because I could see he keeps getting better and better every fight.
Jay, you have any thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, Larkin looked really good. I think a lot of the reason why he looked so good is he knew he was fighting for a contract as a free agent. So he came out and figured, let me put on a show. Try to get a fight bonus. Try to get Dana White to take notice of him. Either way, he's going to cash in, either here or with Bellator. That fight, Neil Magny doesn't usually get beat like that, and for him to get whooped, I mean, it was just a massacre. The leg kicks, the oblique kicks, those oblique kicks were nasty. I mean, and like I said, Magny's no chump. he doesn't get beat like that normally. But I think a lot of it had to do with, Larkin knew that he was coming up on free agency and he wanted to put on a show. And he's going to make some money. I really think his best bet is really to sign with Bellator. He'll make some big money with Bellator. I don't think UFC's going to break the bank for him, even though they probably should sign him. He'll get more money going with Bellator. I think that he's going to end up with Bellator like McDonald. He's going to cross over, no doubt about it.
If he goes to Bellator, you can make a strong argument for get a title shot right away.
Yeah, no, just like Henderson did. And to be honest with you, he reminds me a lot of Henderson, except with better striking. He just has that that same build. He's a good solid fighter, and in Bellator he's top 5 guy right away. I mean, it's not even close. Here he's just I don't know if he might crack the top 10, but in Bellator he's top 5, top 3 immediately.
Right, and that's the end of the Fight Pass prelims. We're going to hop over to the Fox Sport 1's prelims. First fight on that card, Courtney Casey, winner by submission in round 1 over Ronda Marcos. Anything to really highlight here?
Just a really nice submission by Courtney Casey. She got in a scramble. Marcos, she's quick, she's fast, pretty good athlete. Courtney Casey caught her. She's got 2 stoppages in a row right now. I think she's 5-3 in MMA, so I wouldn't get too excited about it. This is a fight that should have been on the fight pass instead of the main card. I think Covington fight should have been higher than this one.
Jay?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this was a ho-hum fight. Really didn't stand out to me. I was half paying attention to the fight. The like Keith said, Covington and Larkin, the Covington fight and the Larkin Magny fight. I understand they're trying to push Fight Pass. That's why I was on Fight Pass. But those 2 fights have to be on the prelims, or even you could even make a case that Magny Larkin probably should have been the first fight on the main event card. I mean, Perry.
I think it should be the second fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that wasn't on the main card. I was shocked. I mean, I understand they gotta put a good main event together for Fight Pass, so people tune into Fight Pass and buy Fight Pass. But I mean, for that to be on the prelims and for those 2 other fights to be on Fight Pass was pretty ridiculous. It was a pretty boring fight.
Well, I know one thing they've been doing is if they think they're going to lose a fighter to free agency, they'll kind of bury him.
Yep.
Because if he doesn't win, if he wins, the hardcore fans saw that, not the casuals. Get Larkin, put him on one of the biggest pay-per-views there's going to be, and have him win, and then go over to Bellator. That's free eyes for Bellator that they didn't have to pay for. I mean, they did it with Benson Henderson when Benson Henderson fought Jorge Masvidal. It was a main event, but it was on a Fight Pass. They put it in Japan. Only hardcore people like me watched. Like there's probably a lot of people didn't see it. So that's that kind of way of not giving Bellator or World Series of Fighting or one of these other organizations promotions.
Yeah, that's definitely a free agent game that Dana plays. That's an old boxing trick, an old boxing promotion trick. The guy that's might be gone, you stash him because it's a leverage thing. It's a leverage thing. So I mean, it's a game that Dana knows well. He's a promoter at heart. So what he did with that is, like you said, if Larkin loses, he's got more leverage. If he wins, no one really saw it, but he's got all the leverage.
The worst thing is if Magny won that fight, then and had a great performance, then you just buried a great performance by Magny.
Exactly. Yeah, he fucked Magny by trying to fuck Larkin, which isn't the right thing, because Magny's been a company guy for a while. He's the type of guy like Cerrone. He fights 5-6 times a year. He saves cards. And for Dana to do that, but that's Dana way. I'm a fan of Dana because he's a brilliant guy when it comes to the fight game, but he's also does some shitty things, and that was one of the shitty things he did. He's known for stuff like that.
Second fight that was on the prelims was Artem Lobov versus Chris Avila. Lobov winning by decision. Pretty much dominated, won all 3 rounds from my opinion.
Yeah, this is an awful fight. This is 2 guys. Neither guy are UFC caliber fights. This was just a gimmick fight. Lobov trains with McGregor. Avila trains with Nate. it was just kind of like, let's put the two camps against each other. Lobo I think he might have just cracked 500 for his record. Avila, he didn't check one leg kick. He had no offense the whole fight. It was awful, gimmicky. Move on.
I agree. It was kind of like Team McGregor versus Team Diaz. It was just something to get the fans hyped up. This was another one that should have probably been on Fight Pass, but the reason why it was in the prelim card is to push the McGregor, Team McGregor versus Team Diaz thing to get those last minute buyers. And it was just like, it was an okay fight. Avila was out of his element. You could tell he's more of a local scene fighter, where Lobov was more polished, but even he's like a C fighter. But I mean, it was an average fight, C fight at best.
I wouldn't even put it at. I think it was awful. I thought the fight was boring.
Yeah, it was just. But I mean, for the like the fan favorite, because it was Team McGregor, Team Diaz. I mean, that's why people basically watched it. It was just like a ho hum nothing fight.
All right. After that, we had Raquel Pennington winning by decision over Elizabeth Phillips. Nothing usually flashy in Pennington's fights. What are your thoughts, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, you said it right. She's a grinder. She stays in your face. Just works the point game. She doesn't have a lot of power in her hands. She's okay wrestling. Okay, she's just okay. To me, this was just a B level fighter beating a C level fighter. She's better than Phillips in every area. Pennington, I think she might be on our top 10 or honorable mention, but she's not going to go anywhere else. The highlight of her career is when she fought Holly Holm and she dropped Holly Holm with a punch. I don't think she'll ever have a higher point than that. I know for some reason Dana White loves her. I don't get the hype, but
Yeah, just again another just average fight. Pennington just, she's just a tad better. Both girls are just B fight, C fighters. Another fight that was kind of just I was surprised it was on the prelims, to be honest with you. The prelims as a whole, besides the Garbrandt fight, even that was not, it was just one-sided fight. It was kind of a weak prelim card for such a big main event card.
yeah.
It seemed like the better fights were on Fight Pass. I mean, Fight Pass, the fights on Fight Pass should have been the prelim fights. The first three prelim fights were pretty much a joke.
Don't worry, I swear me and Jay will start disagreeing with each other soon.
We will. Wait till the main event comes. Oh.
I think we might disagree on this next one.
All right, we'll see. Garbrandt.
All right. Yeah, let's hop into.
I'm gonna throw a sub question to it. All right, good.
All right. Hopping into the main event of the prelims, Cody Garbrandt, winner, first round knockout, third fight in a row, winner by first round knockout over, I'm just going to call him The Miz.
The Miz.
Takeya Mizugaki. It's a fun name to say.
Well, I mean, you don't get to say it much when he only lasts for 48 seconds.
Yeah, Cody Garbrandt, this guy's a top talent, and there's no way to deny it. When he beat Thomas Almeida, there was no way, there's no way to say he wasn't. Did I get zoomed in all of a sudden? I feel like I'm really close to the screen now. I'm gonna change that.
Let me have another look.
I don't know. All right, so I mean, there's no doubt. This guy is the biggest prospect in the bantamweight division. He's arguably one of the best prospects in all of MMA. He's your Andrew Benintendi. I threw that for Jay. Red Sox fans will get that. He's the next big thing. He's your Yohan Moncada. The sky's the limit with this guy. He's young. He's got crazy power in his hands. He throws tons of combinations. The best part of his game that I noticed is how quick he closes the gap. He'll go from slow pace to in your face with power in a second. And the guy that was always great at closing a gap was George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre did it more with his wrestling, while Garbrandt does it with his striking. Rampage Jackson was always great in his prime of closing a gap with his striking. But let's slow down, I think, a little bit. I mean, I could see the future. He's a star. I mean, he's got great wrestling, which he hasn't showed yet. He's got crazy power. He's He's got the tattoos. He's got the looks. He dated Paige Van Zandt. The girls like him. He's well on the mic. He's already calling out the champion. He's got casual fans talking about him. I mean, you got people that are reaching out to me trying to get more into MMA. That's already pumping this guy up. So I'll ask the second question after Jay gives his. I mean, obviously the guy's a killer. Mizugaki's a nice veteran. He's got a good chin, but he just got swarmed. There was no answer. I mean, he got flash knocked out 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was an absolute brilliant performance. I still think the Thomas Almeida performance was even better because I think I haven't given up on Thomas Almeida. I think he's a legit prospect. So, what do you think, Jay?
I was impressed with the performance, but I was kind of down on how he went down in competition. I mean, he fought Almeida, which was a legit top 6, 7 guy. Mizugaki is a good veteran, but he's not on Almeida's level. I was hoping actually he didn't, like Cruz actually mentioned this, how he fought, he kind of had a step down fight where he probably should have had a step up fight. He looked great against him. He started out as a boxer, so he's got fast hands, good power. I just don't think he's ready for Cruz yet. Even as good as he looked against Almeida and Mizugaki, I think he needs one more fight before Cruz. Cruz is a whole different animal. Cruz can beat you with his movement, his defense, his speed. Garbrandt has never fought anyone on that level, not even close. Almeida is a tough guy, real good. I picked Garbrandt to win that fight, but I didn't think he was going to do it that easy. I mean, he made Almeida look like a scrub, and Almeida's a very good fighter. But I just didn't like how he took a step back and fought a guy lower in the rankings. I thought he maybe should have stepped up. I think he needs one more fight against a top 5 or 6 guy before he gets Cruz. But he's got all the tools: tough, aggressive, good puncher, good wrestler. Like Keith said, he's marketable. He's got the neck tattoos. It's a little, bros love that. But I think he's got a bright future. But I think if he fights Cruz next, I think Cruz beats him pretty easily.
Yeah. So I said that we would disagree. We don't.
Surprise! Surprise! Jesus Christ! There goes our ratings.
Yeah. So much. Yeah. So much for Hannity and Combs, I guess. So yeah, I totally agree. The thing about him is he hasn't fought a top 10 guy yet. Thomas, hold on. Let me back up.
Almeida was top 10. Yeah, he was top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But he hasn't beat anybody currently ranked in the top 10.
Yeah.
I'm worried that if they rush him, it's going to happen with Mike McDonald, where there's holes in his game, but he got rushed too soon. Mike McDonald got rushed into fighting Henan Barrow and Uriah Faber, and there's still holes in his game. He's very hittable, and that's an issue. And you got a Dominic Cruz, that's a complete, like Jay said, a completely different animal. But also, and I think Jay will, and don't have needs to get the next title shot. You can make a strong argument that T.J. Dillashaw won the last fight. I scored it 48-47 for Cruz, but I had zero issue with any scorecard because I thought all 5 rounds were toss-ups. I went on MMA decisions because I thought me and Jay I thought we were going to duke this out, so I was trying to set them up. There's 22 people put in the decisions. 12 people scored it for Dominic Cruz. 10 people scored it for T.J. Dillashaw. This is a guy who defended his belt multiple times, doesn't get the immediate title rematch, goes on, fights Rafael Sunsao, a legit top 5 guy, destroys the Sunsao. There's no way. I understand T.J. Dillashaw doesn't sell, and Garbrandt, I think, is a star. But put him as a co-main event. Put it on, I think, Cruz versus Dillashaw again on a Fox Sports, not Fox Sports, on a regular Fox card. Throw in Garbrandt versus maybe Brian Caraway on a co-main event, or what I really would love to see.
Do you think they go the other way and they do Garbrandt versus Dillashaw and then maybe Caraway versus Cruz?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I mean, how can you? They could. I mean, who knows? But how could you argumentally? What's the argument for Caraway to jump Dillashaw? To me, there's no argument.
Because the fight already happened, maybe. But I think maybe because that would be like a true number one. I mean, not really wouldn't be a true number one contender because Garbrandt's not even up there yet. But I mean, Garbrandt Dillashaw, then the winner faces Cruz.
Think about this fight. Cruz versus Dillashaw main event, co-main event. Garbrandt versus the winner of John Lineker, Dotson.
Dotson,
John
yeah. I could go with that. Then the winner gets the winner of Cruz and Dillashaw. I like that, actually. I like that a lot.
Both guys are great athletic. Both guys have a lot of power. Both guys have a lot of speed. Now you're comparing, you got the knockout power of Garbrandt versus the knockout power of either Lineker or Dotson.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. And you put it on the same card, too. If you're smart, you put it on the same card.
Right on the same card. He calls out the winner right there.
Yeah. Or I could see that.
Or Lineker and Dotson. I mean, Dotson, if Dotson won, there's no issues. If Dotson won, beats Lineker, fights Garbrandt, somehow beats Garbrandt, and then calls out the champ, but Dillashaw pulls the upset, Dotson already has a win over Dillashaw. So there's so many good angles they could go with that.
It's a great division, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of young stars.
Yeah.
You still got some young stars, I think.
You still got McDonald. McDonald's still around. I know he lost to Lineker, but I mean, he's a young kid. I mean, even that's a deep division. From 10 to 15, that's one of the deeper divisions. Outside the top 10, you still have really good fighters at that division.
You got another guy that'll make a big name on himself if he gets the win is Jimmy Rivera if he beats Uriah Faber.
My boy.
Yep. Rivera, he's a good fighter. And that's a winnable fight. And Faber's is still a name, so if you can get that name on his resume, that's huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I was watching the fights with casual fans when Cruz was fighting Faber, and I was winning money because everyone was taking Faber, and I said I'll bet every single person Cruz wins, and I talked it down. I'm like, it's a toss-up fight, could go either way, and I'm thinking in my head, are you crazy? Cruz is gonna kill him.
Yeah.
All right, we can slide on to the main card now. Right before we do that, Keith, Kurt Smith has a message for you.
Oh boy.
What?
Kurt Smith has a message for you. He says, look who topped out the fantasy picks and the DraftKings on UFC 202.
Yeah, Kurt's taking over.
Tell Kurt Smith he's going to owe me a Bavaro jersey soon. We have a jersey bet. Whoever has the better record, if the Giants.
That's right. You did.
The better record there.
Hey,
speaking of jersey bets, bet on that.
I wear an extra large, Kurt. So save your pennies.
Hey, speaking of jersey bets, Jay Mad better not forget that he's going to owe me a jersey bet. Mookie Betts jersey because at the beginning of the season I took the Red Sox over the Yankees. We made a bet. Standings.
Love it.
Pretty good there.
All right. Anyway, sliding into the main card. Tim Means, welcome back. Winner, second round knockout over Hamasi. What'd you think about that, Keith?
I mean, this kind of is going to go with the next fight. This is what a UFC veteran should do to a guy taking a fight on short notice in their UFC debut. This is, he got hurt at one point. Hamasi got him with a nice shot. He recovered. The Dirty Bird is a great nickname for him because he fights dirty. He has those inside short elbows, short knees, kind of like a Matt Brown style. Good to see him win, especially after he got suspended by USADA for a tainted supplement that he bought over the counter that wasn't disclosed. So it's nice to see that they took the suspension away from him. Supposedly, maybe John Jones is the same situation. Who knows? Jay loves John Jones.
Oh, I love John Jones. He's my favorite.
He's a godfather, right?
I really hope he gets Rumble Johnson next, so Rumble just knocks his head off his neck. I really do. You want to talk about this Means fight?
Yeah, what do you think about this Means fight?
Yeah, I thought Means is one of those tough gatekeeper types. Yeah, he's a solid guy. Hamasi, you could see from the opening horn that he wasn't ready. Hamasi's another level. He's kind of, I wouldn't even call him a prospect type. He's a younger guy. The minute that fight started, you could just tell Means was going to grind it out. Means is the definition of a gatekeeper. If you beat Means, if you're a prospect or an up-and-coming guy, if you beat Means, that means you're legit. But he's the type of guy, if you don't have the talent, Means is going to beat you. And he's going to find a way to beat you because he grinds. He reminds me of a guy like Mickey Ward. Just a real good, tough gatekeeper. Not a guy who's anything more than a beep fighter, but He's a guy that's he's a test. If you beat him, that means you're legit. And Hamasi just didn't have the experience or the skill set. He wasn't ready for me. He might be good in the future. I really don't see it with Hamasi, but you could just tell he wasn't ready for a guy like Means, and Means just basically did what he wanted to do. It was a hard fight, and Hamasi took a pretty good beating.
Right then, on from there, we went into Mike Perry winning by knockout, round 1. Lots of knockouts on this card. Over Leem. Just going to say Leem. I'm not good with the Asian names. Young Yu Leem, I'll call him. Close enough.
Not bad.
Mike
Not
Perry,
bad.
yeah, I'll give it to you. Mike Perry, he's a big prospect. I heard a lot of buzz about him before this fight. I never saw him before this fight, but I heard a lot of buzz because I read a lot of stuff. And 24 years old, making his UFC debut. He's taking it on, I think, 10 days, 11 days notice.
Yeah, 10 days.
It
was 10.
10 days, 8-0.
Yeah.
All 8 wins by knockout. 5 knockouts in the first round. Now 6 in the first round. And he's supposed to be a wrestler. His bread and butter is wrestling, but he has one of these Johnny Hendricks type, Josh Koscheck type overhand rights, and he landed that overhand right over and over and over again. What I was saying about Tim Means is a veteran taking a fight and what they do against a guy on short notice. This is what I expected Leem to do. Leem was a huge favorite. He was one of the biggest favorites on the card. If you got him in DraftKings, he was like second or third from top. Leem is this humongous welterweight, and he had no answer. Who they're saying Perry is undersized and might be able to make 155. He's hitting this overhand right. Obviously, he's got KO power. He's got 8 knockouts in the first round. What I loved is his attitude after the fight. Already, he's calling out big names. He called out Robbie Lawley. He called out Johnny Hendricks. Said he'll take the fight, take the winner of Meyer Conde. He said if one of those guys drop out, he was ready to jump right in. I love it. He just signed a fight to fight David Roberts in his hometown in Britain, Great Britain. Like I said, I don't want to get too excited because he beat a B-level fighter, a C-level fighter, but he's fun. This guy's fun already. I'm already a fan.
Yeah, Perry's he seemed like I didn't know much about him before this fight. He's a relative newcomer. Who did he replace, Keith? I forgot the Russian, right? Who did Perry replace? Russian kid, right? Lubadov?
Or whatever, how you say his last
Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing because I heard good things about that Russian kid. So when Perry replaced him, I really didn't hear much about Perry. I looked him up. He had an impressive record. He never fought anyone of note, but he looks the part. Heavy hands. I think he's probably going to be better off at 155 because he does seem like a small 170. He seems like he's the type of guy who can cut down. At 155, he'd be a beast with his power and his wrestling. He reminds me, like you could tell too, he's got a mouth on him, and he's trying to market himself. He's kind of like a 8 Mile meets Jersey Shore type of guy with the way he talks. He's like the 8 Mile Jersey Shore version of Conor McGregor, which is everyone does now. So he's got a shtick. He came on with the I'm gonna beat this guy's ass. He was calling a lot of guys out. I think he might be too small for legit guys at 170. I don't think he's ready for Waller and all those guys that he called out. I think he gets slapped around. But he's got a future. He looked good against a guy who's I don't agree. I don't think he's a B guy. I think he's a C guy, Lynn. But he looked good against a C guy. Did what he had to do. Put his name out there. I think he's gonna get a fight right away, and we'll see what he does in that fight. It's a little too early to say he's anything great, but he has he's got the look, he's got the skills. We'll see what he does in the next couple fights.
Yeah, just think about the situation. He gets thrown in on 10 days' notice. He takes on a guy who's humongous for the weight class.
Yeah.
And then he's got to fight him on the main card
Yeah.
of the biggest fight of the year. The
Yeah.
Rockin' House. The place was crazy. To walk into your UFC debut, I'm really impressed. I mean, Paulie D of MMA.
Eminem meets Paulie D. It turned out to be a brilliant move on Dana's. At first, I'm like, why the fuck do they have these two guys on the main card? I like the Means opening fight, but then I'm like, no one's really heard of Perry. Lim is just a guy that hardcore's got know. So I said, why the hell do they have this on it? But it turned out to be a genius move because it was a hell of a fight. And the Means fight before it was a great fight, and then this Perry fight ended in dramatic fashion, not big knockout. But it actually turned out to be genius to have those two fights on the main card.
I was only rooting for him because his name was Perry. That's my mother's maiden name. I was rooting for him.
Does she have that Florida twang?
He's still making controversy because his cornerman was throwing out racial slurs to Lynn during the fight.
Yeah, he was making fun of his eyes. He said, "Open your eyes." Yeah, they got a little bit of hot water for that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But you can't blame Perry. You can't blame Perry for that. You can't blame Perry.
No.
That was his corner guys.
No, all right, we got to keep this going because the main event's gonna take a lot of time.
Yes, we're getting right into the meat of the card right now. Donald Cerrone, winner, second round knockout over Rick Story, rewarded with an 8-fight extension, and through probably one of the prettiest combos that you'll see in MMA during the fight. Your thoughts on that fight, Keith?
Well, I picked Donald Cerrone to win this fight, but I was worried because Rick Story's a gamer. He's ruined other top hyped up guys like Gunnar Nelson before. And Story, the best part of Story's game is his wrestling and his ability to go to the body, which has always been the weakness of Cerrone. Is if you pressure him, and Story's a pressure fighter. But Donald Cerrone has looked better than he ever has in his entire career. It really makes me wonder if he should have been fighting at 170 all along. You said he threw this beautiful combination. I heard someone say that he threw a video game combination that you hit all the buttons and then they throw stuff. He hit him with like a 6-piece combination. What was really impressive is when he initiated the wrestling and took down Rick Story, and then when Story reversed him, he threw up a real nice triangle, almost got him there, almost got an armbar. Donald Cerrone is extremely well-rounded. Now, I don't want to get too excited because I'm a Cerrone fan. I know everybody. Everybody loves Donald Cerrone. What I love about his game is I'm noticing is that he's adding the jab back in, but he's mixing up with power. So he's hitting them with the jab, power, kicks. He's adding all these games. He's getting guys guessing with his he is very underrated wrestling. I love that he just signed an 8-fight contract with the UFC. They could not let him go. My question is, he says he wants to go down to 155. Do you want to see him at 155 or 170?
I'd say 155. But he's the type of guy who could do both, though. He has that body type to do both. I think he looks stronger at 170, but he hasn't fought the top 6 or 7 guys at 170 yet. And a lot of those guys at 170 walk around at like 200 pounds. And these guys, they made big weight cuts. I think Cerrone's the type of guy who walks around about 180, 185. So he's probably like an average size 170 guy. But he's killing himself to get to 155, I think, too. I mean, I think he looks kind of emaciated at 155 at times. But at 170, he looks healthy. He looks strong. I think he's the type of guy who could yo-yo between both 155 and 170.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I'm hoping they do. I hope they just give him big fights. I mean, he's had a shot at the title. If a title fight comes along, it comes along. But having him fight at either weight class, just take the bigger fight, whatever the bigger fight is. Some guys fight better at higher weights. A guy we're getting to next has excelled at the higher weight than he did in the lower weight classes. Rashad Evans has always said when people were pushing him to go on to 185 is that he feels stronger and faster in the higher weight class. And I've wrestled a long time. I know guys who would never cut weight because they felt faster and stronger at a higher weight class. So I'm wondering, I don't want to get too excited because he hasn't beat anybody in the top 10 yet, but I'm wondering if we're starting to see the Donald Cerrone that was always there, because he's starting to peak now at a higher weight class. I hope so. There's a lot of guys who people have given up on that resurrect their career. Robbie Lawler is a perfect example of a guy who was given up on, resurrect his career. Vitor Belfort resurrected his career. I think Jay would agree. We both question how he resurrected his career.
Yep.
But I'm a Donald Cerrone guy. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Donald Cerrone. I would love for one day for this guy to win the title.
Yeah, Cerrone. I've been a fan of Cerrone for a while. I mean, I like his shtick is good too with the cowboy stuff, and he's the biker and the adventure sports type of guy. Like he's got that kind of everyman attitude. Drink a beer at the press conference. That attracts a lot of people. And his fighting style is, he's got that Muay Thai kickboxing style that's just fun to watch. Then he also has a ground game. I mean, you can't, he's no novice on the ground. So he's just an all-around really good A- fighter who deserves. He's I wouldn't want to. I'm not going to call him Faber. I think he's a better fighter than Faber. But it always seems like when he's in that big fight for the title, he just can't get over that hump. Maybe at 170 he can. Maybe beating Story and his win streak will give him that confidence to get him to that next level. But he always seems just to come up a little short. Like, Dos Anjos murdered him. It wasn't even a fight. I mean, I'd like to see him go in a title fight and actually, if not win, actually put on a really good performance. It just seems like when he's in those big fights, he just comes up a little short, and that's why he's like an A- guy. But there's nothing wrong with being an A- guy. The guy is a very good fighter, very fun to watch. I think he can go back and forth between 155 and 170, make noise in both divisions. And that combo he landed on Story, that was like a Mortal Kombat combo. That's the type of stuff you get, bonus points for. But I mean, Story's hittable though. Story's not a guy who's a good striker, so you can look good against him on your feet. And Cerrone's just so advanced in the striking game that he made Story look like a fool on his feet. But it was a solid win. Story's a strong guy, and for Cerrone to just beat him up like that, it was a very, very impressive win.
A guy that he reminds me of, not style of fighting, but career-wise, is Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping has always been that guy who never considered. No, hear me out. Not style-wise, completely different style fighters, but a guy that was always just under the top guys and just keeps up racking wins in the UFC, which is impressive. And eventually, everything worked out for Michael Bisping. He ended up getting in a position that no one expected him to be in. No one thought he deserved a title shot, and won. Donald Cerrone is one of these guys that will take a fight on a week's notice. All of a sudden, Michael McDonald gets. Stephen Thompson gets hurt in a week before, and all of a sudden Donald Cerrone's thrown in a title fight and he wins.
Yeah, but I mean Cerrone, you got to give Cerrone a lot of respect because he is the type of guy, he'll fight 5 or 6 times in a year. He doesn't care. He just wants to fight, and that's the type of guy that that's why he's got a lot of fans, because he goes out there and just fights and he puts on good fights. And I hope he does win a belt because he deserves it. It's a tough division though. But I think the crazy thing is that I think the best guy in 170 is Wonder Boy. I really think he's the cream of the crop. But Cerrone matches up well against him. They're both stand-up guys. They're both kickboxers, which actually Cerrone probably has better Muay Thai than Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy is a straight kickboxer. So that type of style, because they have similar styles, they might cancel each other out and go to the ground. And Cerrone's better on the ground than Wonder Boy. So I think Cerrone could surprise some people. I think that's a really good matchup for him.
Now, the one thing about that matchup that jumps out a little bit to me, Keith, you mentioned Cerrone has a little bit of a weakness when he gets rushed. And there's a lot of punches coming at, and that's exactly what Wonder Boy did to Johnny Hendricks to make that one look so easy. So I could also see the same thing happening there.
I think Tyron Woodley, who I always call Ferguson, he's from Ferguson. I always mess it up. Tyron Woodley, I think he's a bad matchup too, because of he has that rushing style that he did to Lawler. But I'd be rooting for Cerrone.
No, like you said, man, everybody loves Cerrone. Now, not a couple months ago, he said something about he doesn't care about any titles. He just wants the big fights, and he wants to go out there, do the big fights, cash his paycheck, and move on to the next one. You think this win changes his mindset about that at all, or do you think he's still just Donald Cerrone?
Well, he's called for the fight with Eddie Alvarez because he already has a win over Eddie. He's the only guy who's beaten Eddie Alvarez in the UFC so far. So when he sees a guy winning a title that he thinks he's better than him, I think he does want that. And I think it also would cement his career. There's a lot of fighters out there who was always at that threshold of being a champion. I mean, Carlos Condit is one that comes right to my mind. A guy who to me is an A-level talent but never got that title. You need to Michael Bisping, like I said, Michael Bisping is a great fighter. Obviously, I'm higher on him than a lot of people are. But if Michael Bisping never got that title fight, to me it would seem like his career would be incomplete. And you've got guys that have won the title that are not even nearly as accomplished. You've got a Matt Serra, even a Forrest Griffin. These guys, to me, haven't accomplished what Donald Cerrone has, and for them to get to go in the record books, 50 years from now, you won't remember Donald Cerrone, but you'll look at the record books, and if his name's not in there, it's a shame.
Mm. I think Cerrone. I think he might have changed his outlook because before he was that guy. By the way, too, that Everybody Loves Cerrone. That would be a good sitcom. It's a good sitcom name. Everybody Loves Cerrone. But I think it's changed a little bit because I think he sees that where all right, I've been a good fighter, a very good fighter the last 5-6 years, when going back to WEC the last 10, 12 years, but I want that mantle. You know what I mean? I want that belt. I want that one big accomplishment. And I think that's why he called out Alvarez, because he wants that. Before, I think 2-3 years ago, he was cool with just fighting 5 times a year, getting his paycheck, then going out and doing his jet skiing and stuff. Now he's going to be 33. I think he is already 33. He sees that, he probably only has 3 or 4 years left, and he's already beaten Alvarez. So why not go down there, get the strap, try to defend it? I think his mindset's changed a little bit because he realized he's getting a little bit older, and he only has maybe a 3 or 4 year window left. So he wants to get what he hasn't got yet, and that's the belt. He's done everything else in the sport.
It'd be a good angle there. Philly guy versus the Cowboy.
Yeah, it's already happened. Yeah, it's already happened. He already beat him. That would be great, though, as a rematch. Yeah, definitely. They're two totally opposite guys. One guy is from Kensington. Kensington is, as polar opposite as Cerrone is as you can get. The Cowboy versus the Kensington guy.
Nice little angle they can play there. I'd like that. We'll see if that happens or not.
Yep.
I think Cerrone would win, too.
Yeah, I think Cerrone can win again, for sure. He'd probably beat him the same way he did the first time.
I agree.
Next fight on the card, we're going to talk about it way longer than the fight actually went on, obviously. Anthony Johnson, first round knockout over Glover Teixeira. I don't think Teixeira's tooth has landed yet.
Jeez, that was vicious.
I'm not sure if you guys saw the video of Teixeira's tooth flying up.
I did. That thing looked like it was going to go flying into Dana's bear.
I think it's wedged into the ceiling.
Poor Glover.
This fight is so aggravating to me, and I'll tell you why. I picked Anthony Johnson in DraftKings. I thought he was the easiest pick in the draft in DraftKings. Let me tell you guys something. Anthony Johnson is so beatable, and I'll tell you how. All the fighters out there, just listen to me, and I'll tell you the secret to beating Anthony Johnson.
Oh, jeez. Listen up, fighters.
Listen up. Do not get hit by this guy. Simple. Don't get hit by him.
Yeah.
You get hit by this guy, you're going out. Obviously, I'm making a little joke there. Anthony Johnson is the scariest guy alive right now. Hold on, let me rephrase it. In MMA, this guy's Kovalov, Triple G. But in MMA, there's not a guy scarier in MMA. And I was thinking about this. I think he's the hardest hitter in the history of MMA. I tried to think of someone else.
You think so? How about Liddell?
The only thing I can think of is Krokop's high kick.
How about Liddell?
But the thing about Krokop's high kick is he never hit guys at this level and knocked out guys at this level that Anthony Johnson is. And Anthony Johnson put him out in 13 seconds. I mean, Ryan Bader was curled up. Ryan Bader has beaten really good guys, and he's curled up in the fetal position, scared to get hit by this guy. Little Nog has always had a great chin. I thought he died when he got hit. I mean, Gustafsson went 5 rounds with John Jones and put out under a minute in his hometown. This guy's has anybody hit harder in the history of? I mean, maybe Mark Hunt, maybe, but Mark Hunt didn't put guys out like Anthony Johnson. He never beat guys at this high of a level, and neither had Croker. I can't think of one guy in the history of MMA that hit as hard as he can.
I put Liddell up there too. Liddell could hit. Liddell had that one-punch power that Johnson has. Johnson's up there though. I mean, no question about it. The thing with Rumble is, I think Cormier took his shots. Cormier has that blueprint. He got him down and he mauled him. That's the only way you're gonna beat Johnson. Like you said, if you take a clean shot from Johnson, you're gonna be out. I mean, Glover Teixeira, no one's beat Glover like that ever. Not even Jones. Jones didn't beat Glover like that. Johnson just has that transcendent special power, like the type of power that you saw from, like, I got to go back, but Rocky Marciano, Mike Tyson. He has that one punch power with 4-ounce gloves. If he touches you, it ends violent. But the thing is, what you have to do is you have to stay at the end of his punches. A good striker can negate his boxing if you stay at the end of it, or if you move inside and take away his power. Glover was the distance Glover, and I was surprised too because Glover's a pretty good striker. The distance he was keeping from, I mean, I know it was an early fight, it was only 14 seconds, but he was right in his wheelhouse. You got to stay at the end of those punches. You get hit inside the pocket by Johnson, it's over. So you have to maintain the right type of distance because no one has the chin to withstand what he can bring.
No, the Johnson. Think about this. He hit Cormier in the beginning of the round. He made him do a somersault across the ring.
Yeah, you gotta give Cormier credit for that.
Like you see in like a cartoon. Like you see in like when Mike Tyson used to hit guys in the video game and you someone back like Mike Tyson's punch out. I mean, think about it.
Class Joe.
I don't know. I'm just making. He has like 35 fights in his career or something like that. He's never been knocked out. He had one TKO his very first fight. It was stopped. He gassed out at ground and pound. I didn't see the fight. I heard it from someone else. That's it. He's never been knocked out. He's been in there with the best guys in the world. Never been knocked out. 13 seconds. See you later. Glover is a pretty big guy. He's a big 205, and Johnson made him look like a midget in there. Really, Johnson's just a big dude. I guarantee he walks around at 230. There's no question. He could fight at heavyweight easily fight at heavyweight. I know he has, but he's just a big man. And I want to be, I'm not going to throw around any, but he's just a big dude. And he's a problem for anybody. I mean, I think Jones goes down pretty bad against this version of Jones. This Jones, the guy who could barely, he beat OSP, but he didn't look great doing it. If he fought Jones now, if they fight in a month or two, if Jones gets the suspension lifted, I think Johnson beats him easy. I think he's right for the pick, and Johnson hit so hard. I fear for Jones. I'm telling you, if they ever fought, it would be a bad day for Jones.
Now, which fight would you rather see? Would you rather see Johnson versus Jones or Johnson versus DC? I'd rather see Jones.
I agree with you. I'd rather see Jones out the gate than the winner of that gets Cormier. I think it's a more exciting fight right now because if you put Johnson against Cormier, we've seen that. I mean, Cormier already won. I think right now with the momentum that Johnson has, he has a better chance of beating Cormier. But Cormier's already beaten him. I think the more exciting fight, and especially if he gets his suspension lifted, if they can get that on the New York card, Johnson and Jones as the main event, that would be enormous. And then the winner of that gets Cormier in January or February.
I see the positive and negative of him fighting John Jones first. The positive is if Rumble Johnson, Cormier versus Jones will sell. Jones is a star. If Rumble Johnson fights John Jones and knocks him out like he just knocked out Glover Teixeira or Gustafsson or some dramatic highlight reel knockout, you now have a star. You have your, oh my God, this guy is your Ivan Drago type power hitter. If he hits you, you're done style. So I get that, which I understand. You sell. John Jones is going to sell, so Jones versus Johnson sells, and now you also have whoever wins, now that fight sells. So I understand the promotional part. But the negative part of this is if you're promoting, especially at UFC 205, which I wouldn't trust John Jones at UFC 205. I wouldn't put that's a huge fight. That's the next big one. You have to trust John Jones to stay clean and all this stuff off the octagon. You have to, for him to get to that fight, and then if Jones wins, you have to hope that he stays clean again to get to Cormier. To me, that's just too much. That's you're putting your trust in this guy twice. I would go right to Cormier versus Jones. Cormier versus Johnson. Now, I'm not a promoter. I'm not making money off these fights, so I definitely understand why. Now, my question is, if Stipe Miocic and Alistair Overeem, they're fighting in 2 weeks. If they had breaking news right now, Stipe Miocic breaks his hand, withdraws from UFC 203. Alistair Overeem's going to fight for the interim title versus we're looking for an opponent. If Anthony Johnson jumped up to heavyweight, would you? I could see him winning the heavyweight title 2 weeks from now.
Against Overeem. He could beat Overeem. I think he'd have a tough time against Miocic. Yeah, he beats Overeem. There's no question about it.
I totally think Miocic would give him a harder time, but it wouldn't shock me if he knocked out either guy.
Yeah, see, I think
Overeem with his chin.
Mm-hmm. No, I think he beats Overeem. I think he could beat Overeem.
If I was a fighter and you told me you could fight heavyweight Alistair Overeem or light heavyweight Anthony Johnson, I would fight Alistair Overeem all day, every day. And this is a guy that's 265, built like a freaking Greek statue, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A former K1 kickboxing Grand Prix champion, you know. He's got all the accolades in kickboxing, and I would still rather get punched by Alistair Overeem than Anthony Johnson. And this is a guy, think about this. Anthony Johnson was a guy 4 or 5 years ago, was losing to Josh Koscheck at 170. This guy that he missed weight. He moved up to middleweight to fight Vitor Belfort and missed weight. Like, not by like 1 or 2 pounds. He missed weight by like 8 pounds or 9 pounds.
No, that was the problem. He was killing himself to get to those weights. He was killing himself to get to those weights. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't fight at those weights because he's just, I mean, look at him. I mean, as a guy who's 205, I mean, I don't know how the hell. Sometimes I don't know how the hell he gets down to 205. He's such a big dude. So for him to, I remember those days when he was trying to get down to 170 or 185. That was a joke. I mean, there was no way he was making those weights. He had to cut 40 to 50 pounds. It's crazy. As it is, he's probably cutting 25 to get to 205.
So if Johnson gets a title fight and loses, I would, if I'm in the UFC, I'm pushing up to heavyweight. He's already fought a heavyweight. He fought Andrei Arlovski at heavyweight.
Yeah, he beat him.
Bashed him all around the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think his power transcends as much, but there's a lot of things you could do with Rumble Johnson.
All right, and with that, I think it's time for the main event of this show and of that card.
Oh boy!
Everybody, buckle up. I'm sure this will get interesting.
Oh boy!
Let me start out. Great fight. One of the best, most entertaining fights I've watched in a long time. Conor McGregor, the notorious one, defeats Nate Diaz by decision. 3 rounds to 2, I think, is pretty simple to see from what I've watched. Keith, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I'm going to let Jay start with this one.
Uh-oh.
All right.
That's the McGregor bias. That's what you get. Us McGregor fans stick together. I think it was one of the best MMA fights I've ever seen. Right up there with Lawler McDonald. Lawler McDonald was a war. Lawler Condit. I can think of another dozen that's up there with all of them. I thought it was a very good fight, and people are going to be surprised when I say this. When people say it was competitive, it was close, you got to choose your words wisely. I think when someone wins 3 rounds clearly, and then the 5th round was a toss-up round, I thought McGregor won that fight. It was a great fight, and if you remember, I mean, I don't know if you guys are big boxing guys, but the Gotti Ward trilogy, that first fight was close. Ward won that fight. The next 2 fights were wars. But everyone and their mother knows Gotti won both those fights. They were close. They were close in a relative way because it was such a great fight and it was a bloody fight. But when you watch that fight, I don't care if you're Diaz's cousin. If you can't see that Conor won 1, 2, and 4, you're blind. He won rounds 1, 2, and 4 based on MMA scoring. If you win 3 rounds, the other guy only won 2 rounds, you win the fight. And people are saying, well, Diaz won. You could have gave Diaz a 10-8 round in the 3rd. But if you give Diaz a 10-8 round in the 3rd, you have to give Conor a 10-8 round in the 1st. Because he beat him just as handedly in the 1st round as Diaz beat Conor in the 3rd round. So that would cancel out. I mean, but I really think that 3rd round, you could have gave a 10-8 round to Diaz, but I didn't. I gave him a 10-9 round. I gave Diaz a 10-9. In the 1st round, I gave Conor a 10-9. So I had Conor winning 1, 2, and 4, Diaz winning 3. In the 5th round, was a pretty close round up until that takedown that happened pretty late. It was a pretty sloppy takedown. So I mean that round could have went either way, but I did give it to Diaz based on that last takedown. But people forget in that 5th round, how many takedowns did Conor stuff? At least a half a dozen, at least. And those shots against the cage that Diaz was landing were little taps and slaps, nothing significant. I think he landed a huge elbow. That was about it. But that 5th round was pretty close too. But it was a war. There's no question about it. Great fight. I want to see a trilogy, not right away, but I want to see a trilogy at 155, and they should end it the right way. And the guy who wins that fight is the true winner of the trilogy. But like I said, an awesome fight. I want to hear what Keith has to say. I know he's got a great point that he wants to make. He wants to blow my mind with a point. You got an awesome take, don't you, Keith?
That'd be later.
Oh, it's later?
That'd be later. Well, first of all, my hot take was going to be what Colin Cowherd said. I'll get to that later. He kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say my initial thought Saturday. All right, I'm going to give you the situation how I scored the fight. I'm sitting at a Buffalo Wild Wings. It is packed. Place is crowded. There's like 20% is cheering for Diaz, 80% is cheering for McGregor. Place is rocking. First round, boom. McGregor's teeing off on. Clearly McGregor round. Second round, McGregor comes out blasting again. Knocks him down twice in the second round. He has all the momentum. Then all of a sudden the place goes silent for the next 2 minutes because Diaz is kicking his ass for the last 2 minutes in the second round. All right, especially the very last minute. He's teeing off him. To me, I get that moment, and I said, oh, he just stole all the momentum. I said to myself, he stole the round. And I said, like I said, hear me out. So I said he stole the round, and I'm thinking in my head, this is just like the first fight. It's over in the 3rd round.
That's what I thought, too.
Then Diaz obviously destroys him in the 3rd round.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue that it was 10-8 round. Then you go to the 4th round. I thought McGregor was done. I said, all right, he didn't put him on 3rd round. He did put him on the 4th round. And then McGregor, to his credit, he dug deep. He found something. I thought a part of him kind of panicked and quit in the first fight. He found something in him that wasn't there in the first fight. Because he dug deep, and he won the 4th round. And then the 5th round, I think Diaz won. So originally Saturday night, I scored the fight for Diaz 48-47. Then I rewatched the fight. Because if you're going to analyze fights, you should at least rewatch it. I understand judges don't get a chance to rewatch it. They got to react right there. I rewatched the fight, and I scored it 48-47 for McGregor. I gave him the second one. Now,
hallelujah.
I'm not gonna say that it was like Jay saying it was clearly his second round. If someone argues that Diaz stole the second round, I'm totally okay with that. Because while McGregor dropped Diaz twice, I never really saw him badly hurt. He fell, but he was always looking at McGregor. He was always reacting, almost inviting him into his guard. While McGregor was against the cage getting battered. He was getting hit with more shots. If you look at the significant strikes, Diaz actually won the significant strikes in that round, 37-34, according to Fight Metric. I have no issue.
But you got to count those knockdowns, though. Those knockdowns cancel that out. 2 knockdowns. It's the significant strike total in that. I think it was it 36-30? Was it 36-34? Significant strikes in that second round. I think it was 36-34. If it's that close, the knockdowns negate that.
It was very close. But like Jay said earlier, you have to MMA scoring. You have to look at those knockdowns. Now, if we're just judging,
but no, you don't.
Who got hit more, who got hurt more?
Because this isn't boxing. This isn't boxing. In a sense, I felt like Diaz almost was inviting him to jump into his guard when he got knocked down. Now, so I have no issue if someone gives Diaz the fight 48-47, I don't have a major issue. I really don't have a major issue if someone scores at a draw, because as much as Jay says that the first round could have been a 10-8, if you look at the significant strikes in that round, the significant strikes was 34-25 with 1 knockdown. You compare that to the significant strikes of my battery died. I had to plug in my battery. If you see the significant strikes of the 3rd round, it's 79-37. If you give 30 more seconds in that 3rd round, the fight's over.
I agree. I thought
John McCarthy was about to jump in and save McGregor.
Yeah, I thought it was over in the 3rd. I admit it. I was watching at my brother's house, And I said, this is the same thing that happened in the first fight. He didn't, and you know what, to be honest with you, he was pacing himself. He paced himself well in the first and second round. And all of a sudden, that end of that second round, I said, you know what, this weight is too much for him. Even though he wasn't as bulky as he was in that second round, and that first fight, you know, he put on a lot of bulk, a lot of unnecessary muscle for that first fight. The second fight, he was more trim, but he still just can't. I mean, a guy who's naturally, you know, he should be a 145, 155 guy. You put so much effort into trying to put extra power into that shot because the other guy's so much bigger that you gas yourself out, even if you do pace yourself. So it just seemed like, I was like, geez, this is the same shit that happened the first fight. I said, he's done. You know, me and my brother are big Conor fans. I said, he's done. He said, he's not going to get out of this third round. Like you said, McCarthy looked like he was going to stop it. If there was another 20 seconds in that third round, he was going to stop that fight. But I think McCarthy was a great referee, noticed that there was maybe 12 seconds left. Then he heard that chop, and he said, no, I'm going to let this go. And to Conor's credit, he got that second win in the fourth round, and I couldn't believe he won that fourth round. I said, you know what, he's probably going to take this fourth round off, knowing that he won the first two, and then conserve his energy and then go out and try to win the fifth. But he took it to Nate in the fourth round. And I remember Kavanaugh saying to him between the rounds, he said, this is why we biked. This is why we did the extra running. He's like, now you have to tap into that. And he tapped into it. And Diaz, who's known for his stamina, looked like he started to slow down in the fourth round. He started to get wounded.
Totally.
He really did.
I felt like Diaz decided to just give the round away. Like, I think Diaz thought he won the second. Thought he won the word. I thought he gave the round away. Might have been trying to get a second win or whatever. Or he might have just punched himself out because he went for the kill in the third.
Yeah.
My big issue, and it's going to do with casual fans, when they're saying that, oh, McGregor did the necessary adjustments. What did he adjust? What different between this fight and the first fight and the second fight?
Leg
I
kicks.
see a major difference.
No, there was the leg kicks.
He landed the uppercut and he landed the overhand and he added the leg kicks.
Yeah,
okay, so
that's a big adjustment though.
In the first round, which obviously I think that's fine. But from rounds 2 through 5, it looked a lot like the first fight. Did he didn't panic? I guess that's an adjustment. He didn't shoot in. He never was fully rocked like he was in the first fight. Now,
how about his takedown defense? Keith, how about his takedown defense? That was an adjustment.
Okay. When did Nate Diaz take him down in the first fight?
Well, he didn't take him down because Conor stupidly went for a takedown and he went to his world. He went to his world. And this one he didn't allow that.
I keep hearing, oh, he stopped 6 out of 7 takedowns. Yeah? What college did Nate Diaz wrestle at?
But still, I mean, for him to stop, ground.
When has Nate Diaz been known as a wrestler?
Well, he's known as a grappler. He's not known as a wrestler, but he's known as a grappler. And once he gets you to the ground, it's over. And you got to give Conor credit for, his takedown defense. He basically did the same thing that Wonder Boy did against Hendricks. He basically learned how to leverage his weight and not get taken down by a bigger guy. That's all he. Go ahead.
To me, I don't understand why people score takedown defense. It's not.
I don't score it. I don't score it, but
I hear people all the time say, "Oh, he stopped these takedowns. You got to take that into credit." Why? That would be like a guy throwing a punch at me and me moving and go, "Oh, well, he moved out of the way to punch. You got to add that to it." Why?
Well, you know what it is though. What happens is when you try to take someone down, to me that's ring generalship. When you get someone down, that's ring generalship because you're dictating where the fight is. But if your takedown defense is on point in a roundabout way, the flip side to that coin, the ring generalship goes to the guy that's stuffing the takedown because he's not allowing that other guy to dictate where the fight is.
But that's not what's happening. If I shoot. Johnny Hendricks was shooting on Stephen Thompson. Thompson was stuffing the takedowns and then beating him after the takedowns. Diaz was shooting, but he really wasn't. He was using it to tire McGregor out, having him grappling in. Those takedowns were helping Diaz, the takedown defense, because McGregor was spending all his energy wrestling against the cage. Like people say, McGregor's stopping the takedowns. He was losing those wrestling matches. Like, people don't see it because he was tired, and all of a sudden Diaz would step back, throw a flurry, get back into the grappling. That was helping Diaz. That wasn't helping McGregor at all. Now, I'm going to give McGregor credit. He fought a bigger guy. he won. I think he won. He won. I see something in him that I didn't see. I saw a heart that I didn't see before. He's battle tested now. His chin held up. To me, I'll get to that next. I'll get to that next. Okay, what I wanted to say, I'll wait till later.
All right. Let's hop into who's next for McGregor. We'll start with McGregor. We'll do the same for Diaz. Next.
Is that to me?
Is it to me or Keith?
You, Jay. Go ahead.
For me?
It's for you, Jay.
All right. Who do I think McGregor gets next? Who I think he should get next? I see. I just don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think he can make 145 anymore. I think what he's done to his body, it's tough to explain. When you put mass on the way he put mass on, and then you saw that he was a little bit trimmer this fight, he's screwing with his body composition. For him to get down to 145 is going to be almost impossible. I think he vacates 145, and I think he's going to probably call for Alvarez at 155, and try to go for that belt. And then Aldo is the de facto 145 champion. I don't mind seeing a second Aldo fight, but I mean, he knocked him out in 13 seconds. I mean, why do we need to see that again? Why does McGregor even want to do that? I mean, he has a grudge against Aldo to begin with because, the pulling out and all that other bullshit. So in his mind, he says to himself, why should I fight a guy who I beat up quicker than I climb a flight of stairs? You know what I mean? He beat his ass so bad. What else does he have to prove? And plus, when you add to it that he can't make the weight anymore, I think the thing that makes sense is him going to 155, fighting Alvarez, who's a guy he can beat. It's a good matchup for him. And, what Conor says goes. He rules the roost over there. I mean, if he says, listen, I want Alvarez, it's money. And Dana likes money. And Dana's going to like the fact that he's going to get a belt around his waist because I think he can beat Diaz. I'm sorry, not Diaz, Alvarez. And it's a main event fight, and I think it makes sense. I think Alvarez is the next guy.
Who I think he fights and who he actually fights, I agree with Jay. I think he's going to fight Eddie Alvarez next. I think he should fight Aldo next. I said, when it was 9 months ago, that he would never fight 145 again. And everyone called me an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. And looks like it's looking really good that I could be correct. That weight cut he was huge for the weight class. The reason why I think Aldo deserves a title fight is this isn't Eddie Alvarez who he beat in 13 seconds. This isn't Luke Rockhold. This is a guy who's undefeated for 9 years. He was the only champion in the history of that weight class. He's beaten the who's who. He just beat Frankie Edgar. I forgot who it was who said this, and it was a really good point. I think it might have been Jason Powers. I don't remember. I want to give credit where credit is due. Someone said Nate Diaz beat Conor McGregor, and I know the situation was different, but Nate Diaz beat Conor McGregor. He automatically got a rematch. Why shouldn't Jose Aldo, who has a longer history of wins, a longer history in the UFC, longer history of being a champion, why shouldn't he get a rematch?
Because he got plastered. If it was a closer fight, closer fight, then I say yes, but he got plastered in 13 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to give you – all right. I knew you were going to say that, and I'll set you up. 36, 35 seconds, something like that? That's how quick Junior Dos Santos knocked out Cain Velasquez.
Yeah.
Cain Velasquez went back, fought the best guys, got rematched, destroyed him for the next 2 fights.
Yeah.
Now, that's why, to me, the 13-second beating is almost even a better argument for Aldo, because I would say, yeah, it was one punch, it was quick, we got lucky. Now, if Conor McGregor beats him up for 2-3 rounds, then the luck part, you can't say that anymore. So let's play a little game real quick.
I like games.
I put a poll up the other day that of all these fighters, just quick, who would win? Aldo versus McGregor rematch.
I think McGregor wins. I think McGregor wins. Yeah, not in the same fashion, but I could see a knockout. I could see another knockout, but not that quick.
All right, Diaz McGregor 3. Who wins?
Say again?
Diaz versus McGregor 3. Nate.
Oh.
Nate versus
Go ahead,
What weight?
Justin. Yeah.
What weight?
155.
155.
Connor. I think it's an easy fight for Connor at 155 because Diaz kills himself to get to that weight. I think Diaz loses on the scales. I think Diaz has to lose. He walks around at 190. He has to lose 35 pounds. He loses at the scales. I mean, he goes into that fight emaciated, where Connor is a natural 155, and I think Connor just literally destroys him. I don't even think it's a fight at 155. I think he wins in the first. I think he stops him in the first round.
I think Nate is smarter. I think he wins the rematch.
At 155?
At 155, he had the more significant strikes in this. I mean, this thing about him killing himself. He's fought, I think, 28 of his fights at lightweight. He's never had a
but his
cardio
last
issue.
few he can't. Yeah, but the last few he couldn't make weight against Dos Anjos. He came in at 160.
Right. But he made it against Michael Johnson.
Yeah, he made it against Michael Johnson, but they said he killed himself. And did you see him when he came into the ring? He was emaciated.
I saw him looking as good as he ever been.
I don't think. At the weigh-ins, his collarbones looked like he was going to pop out of his skin.
Listen, he landed the more strikes. He landed the more significant strikes. He was the one pressing the fight. He was the one who got the takedowns. I thought he won the grappling battles. I mean, if Conor McGregor won the third fight, would it surprise me? Of course, to me, it's pick and fight. It's 50-50. I thought this fight was 50-50 fight. All right. One guy that Joe Rogan's been calling for is Nick Diaz.
Nick's too big. Nick is too, and he's not going to fight at 170.
He's too big.
Connor already said he's done at 170. He's not fighting at 170.
So to me, I've heard that people saying that. I think that's a silly fight.
Yeah, it's silly.
Another fight I hear that's silly. George St. Pierre. To me, that's horrible.
St. Pierre? Nah, too big.
It's too big, and I mean, that's a horrible matchup for him, even if they were the same size.
It's too big. That's why there's weight classes. There's no way. St. Pierre is a big 170.
So my last one is Eddie Alvarez.
I think Conor wins easy. At 155.
I honestly, this could surprise people. I think Conor wins too. I think Conor would beat him. And if Conor ever is going to be this, if he's ever going to win the 55 title, I think he's got to get the title fight right now, because Habib Nurmagomedov is a nightmare. For Conor McGregor. So
he's a nightmare matchup for anyone.
Do I think he should get the title fight? No, he's never had a win at 155 in the history of the UFC. That should matter. I mean.
Yeah, but did it matter though when he was going to fight RDA originally? Dos Anjos, he never had a title fight before that. He was going to fight Dos Anjos before Dos Anjos bitched out.
Yeah,
so,
he broke his foot. Come on.
Hey, broke his foot. He had a little boo-boo bruise.
Little boo-boo bruise.
Little boo-boo bruise. That's all he had. He didn't fight because he knew what was going to happen that night. And I mean, when you're getting tagged, knocked out clean by Eddie Alvarez, what do you think Conor would have did to him? Eddie Alvarez knocked him out clean, and Eddie Alvarez didn't have to strike at Conor. It would have been ugly. I think that's why he got a little boo-boo. He dropped the weight on his foot. Smart guy. What do you think, Justin? Who do you think he fights next? You think it's going to be Alvarez?
I think it'll be Alvarez.
Yeah.
I think they're going to. I think he vacates, like you said. I don't think he can get back down to 145. If he does, I can't even imagine what he would look like. No. He'd look like, Skeletor or something out there.
White Ethiopian.
But like you guys have both said, I do want to see the trilogy, just not right now. I want to see some other fights mixed in. I'm McGregor Diaz out for now.
I agree. Sometimes it's too much. There's such thing as too much of a good thing. And I mean, you want to spread that out. I just don't think that. I think it'd be pretty stupid for Diaz to take that at 155, but it seems like he's happy with making money now, which is he didn't do before. He never made the paydays he did before, so I think he'll agree to anything to fight McGregor again. Because if they made 3-2 now, the third fight they're probably going to make 6-3 or 6-4. So you'll see McGregor make $6 million and Diaz will make $3 or $4 million. Diaz will jump at that. He'll jump at that, and I can't blame him. I mean, that's big money, especially for UFC.
So what do you guys think is next for Diaz? Who's on his radar?
Well,
Go ahead.
according to him, he's not fighting until he gets McGregor again.
Mm.
Personally, if I'm the UFC, I can't have him win because the trilogy is a huge fight. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't have him lose. I should say. So to me, the other day I said there's 6 stars in MMA. Now I think there's 8. I think the magnitude of this fight has made him a star, and I think actually probably rolls over and makes his brother a star. So you have to put him in marquee fights, but I put him in fights that he has to win because I can't let him lose until you do the trilogy. So I put him in against a big name like a Joe Lazan. Someone that Nate should easily win, but to casual fans, it's a big fight. Diego Sanchez, some guys that he can beat that just easy fights. I'd give him easy fights. I wouldn't waste him. I wouldn't have him fight Tony Ferguson or something like that.
No. I think you actually put him on the shelf, to be honest with you. I said this in a post that we were talking. I forget who put the post up on the Sports Talk, but I think Diaz has the look of a guy that is weathered, and I think he's ripe for really anyone to really do damage to him. He's got. I want to say major brain damage, but he has brain damage, and it's not from the weed. It's not his style. Is very. I mean, his defense is getting hit. He gets hit. He takes a hit to give you 1 or 2, and he is just. It's. I saw it against McGregor. A few of those knockdowns, McGregor. There was out of the 3 knockdowns, McGregor maybe hit him hard with 1 of them. The other 2 were just because they're cumulative shots. There's only so many shots your head can take. His brain is ripe to be shut off, and I wouldn't even. I mean, even Lozon. And lesser guys at 155, I wouldn't even put him. I put him on the shelf because I'm telling you, someone's gonna catch him the right way, and because he's had such a great chin for so long, that chin disappears. You can't get hit over and over like that. You get concussed. You get naturally concussed, and I think he's ripe for that. And that's why another reason why I say at 155 because he would go down so much in weight. I think Conor hitting him at 155 ends him. And I'm talking about ends him for good because he's just on his way. You could just see it, and so I think he's going to be on the shelf probably until that trilogy. Probably take 6 months off. I wanted to give him a fight.
See, my issue is what about McGregor? He took 353 shots in this fight.
Yeah, well, he did.
Significant shots.
Yeah. Yep.
So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets knocked out in his last fight because McGregor said this himself. The brain can only take so many shots.
Yeah.
I mean that's why Woodley put out Lawler. You can only take so many shots, and I wonder if this has affected both guys. If this will have an effect on both guys, I should say.
Well, this was the first fight that McGregor's really taken this much punishment. Diaz has taken this much punishment his whole career.
To this level, but I would say Mendez got him some really good shots.
He did, yeah. Mendez did, but it wasn't to the point where Diaz. Diaz has done this his whole career though. He's been in. I can think of 12 fights off the top of my, a dozen fights off the top of my head where he's taken major punishment. The Josh Thompson fight was just vicious. Just the brain, the head can only take so much, and I've seen it in boxing. I've been watching boxing for 30 years. A guy that has a chin, all of a sudden that chin disappears because of all the wars he's been in, and he is ripe to get knocked out. And I can see this with Diaz. I think he might have maybe one more fight in him where he can get away with getting hit so many times. But once that bubble bursts, your chin is done forever. Ask Liddell.
I mean, a good point. A good guy to point to with this is Chuck Liddell. When he got knocked out by Rampage Jackson, he started getting knocked out by everybody. Rashad Evans, Rich Franklin.
The button's pushed. Once the button's pushed, it's over.
Yeah, you bruise your brain. You brain takes you get knocked out, your brain takes an injury. So you can't injure your brain so many times. If you tear your ACL is weak. And there's only so many times before your knees are gone. It's the same way with your brain.
Yep. Well, there's no question about it. Your chin, I don't care you can have the best chin in the world. Once it goes, it's over. You can't undo that. Once that button's pushed in, you can't take that button back. You can't push it back out. It's it. Once you get hit on that chin, it's it, and you're naturally concussed. And that's what Diaz is on his way to doing. That's why I put him on the shelf. I really would. I wouldn't even take a chance because I think that I wouldn't take the risk because I think even at this point a B guy could finally push that button where that's it, and then he's just a shell. But we'll see what he does. I think maybe like Keith said, a gimme fight at 155 just to see if he can make the weight. Or a gimme fight at 170, but I think it makes more sense to give him a gimme fight at 155 just to see if he can make the weight, not kill himself, and see how he does there, and then have the trilogy after Conor fights Alvarez.
Now, do you guys think that potential 1-year suspension looming for him? Do you think that might be the best thing for him?
For Nate?
Get that year off, suspended, and come back
What
after?
About that pen? The pen he was
Yeah,
Did they confirm that it was like that cannabis oil?
They can't just take his word for it.
They confirmed it or no? Did they test the pen to see if there was
I'm saying he can't be suspended just on his word.
Right.
Yeah, they have to test the pen.
But he's still got a post fight.
No, BJ Penn did get a suspension just by saying he took an IV, so maybe.
Mm. So they never tested it. They never confiscated the pen to see what was in it.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
So a year suspension might be good for him. It really might, in a crazy way. It might.
It could be good, but on the flip side, is MMA is so the casual fans come and go. So his stock has never been higher than it is right now. So for his career, I mean, he's never going to make the cash he'd make that right now. So I would, if I'm him, I'm cashing in.
No doubt about it. Yeah, that's a good point. That's good. I mean, for his health, it would be good for him because for a year off from not taking punches.
Right.
But yeah, for his marketability, money making, that's a killer. People forget fast.
It's Ronda Rousey, a year off, and everyone hates her. A year ago, everyone loved her, worshipped her. People were talking about her. Is she the greatest woman athlete ever, and all this stuff? And then a year later, she sucks.
Yep. You barely see her on the Metro PCS commercials anymore.
I like how she introduced herself as a champion on the commercial, and then they had to edit it. I
did notice that. Yeah, you don't see her crying on Ellen anymore. Those days are over. They dropped her like a hot potato.
All right, so UFC 202 overall, just a letter grade from each of you, or a 9 out of 10, however you feel like doing it.
Yeah, Jay, you go first.
What do you rate the card?
I'd say just main event.
Just the main card, not the prelims.
I'd give it. I'm a tough grader. I'd give it an A-. I thought it was a near excellent card. It's tough to get an A+ for me, so I'd give it an A-, and it was, if I had to say number, 9 out of 10. Very good to great card.
I'm going A+. I'm going A+. And this is why. If you ordered that pay-per-view, if you were a casual fan, you tuned in for that, you will watch MMA again.
Yeah.
Colin Cowherd kind of stole my glory, but this is what saved UFC 200. 200 was supposed to be this big thing. Diaz McGregor got taken off the card. Jones Cormier then got taken off the card. Brock Lesnar pisses hot. All of a sudden, the main events, Amanda Nunes and Miesha Tate. I mean, this lived up to the hype. I think Colin Cowherd said it perfect. This is the closest. Now, I'm not going to say it's the Thriller Manila. I'm not going to go that far. But to me, this is the closest. The magnitude of this fight, the fact that everyone was turning in, and you had this epic war. Add in the fact that you had crazy knockouts, crazy submissions, a big upset. What else can you ask for in MMA? Now, my thing is imagine if Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao fight was this. If that happened, boxing would be through the roof again. People would be tuning in to Triple G and Kovalev, and all these people would be passionate about boxing again. To me, I think this is going to compel MMA to such a higher. I mean, you got Mike and Mike in the morning talking about it, and Conan O'Brien, and I think Skip Bayless, and all these people talking. Stephen A. Smith. Everyone's talking about it. That's all you heard Monday morning. My mom comes over Sunday afternoon. My mom, I don't know if she knew who played in the Super Bowl last year. And she goes, "Oh, the McGregor guy won, huh?" My mom knows this. To me, I mean, now look at this. Nick Diaz gets jumped at a club, and ESPN and TMZ is reporting on it. Imagine if Carlos Condon got jumped in a club, or Damian Maia. If they got jumped in a club, Yeah, you would report on it? MMA Junkie and Sherdog and websites like that. ESPN wouldn't be reporting Damian Maia got jumped in the club, but because it's Nate's brother now, it's big news.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said there was 6 stars in MMA last week. I think it's 8 stars now with the 2 Diaz brothers. I had people, casual fans coming out of the woodworks. I mean, I think, unfortunately, we didn't have one fight thread to see what the count was. We had about 40 fight threads. I mean, you couldn't go on Sports Talk the last, Saturday and Sunday. You couldn't find any other sport being talked about. This whole week, I would guess that MMA has actually had more talk than any other sport in Sports Talk this week. And is it the best fight? Is it the best fight of the year? I don't know. Is it the best fight, as Colin Cowherd said, in 20 years? No, I mean I think my favorite fight ever is the wars between Eddie Alvarez and Michael Chandler. You could argue that you could argue that Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit was a better fight this year. But when you add in all the things that happened to it, the press conference, the throwing the water bottles, the trash talk, everything that goes along with this, I'm going to go down and say this is the greatest fight in MMA history. When you, it kind of goes down to what Jay was saying about boxing with Ward, Gardy. I watched. I don't know which fight I watched. I'm not a boxing guy. I watched one. I've never seen the Thriller Manila, but from what I've read, Ward Gardy's a better fight. I watched. I texted Jay once, like a year ago. There was Corrales versus somebody. It was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. Crazy. Somebody's Corrales. I don't know.
Marquez Corrales, yeah.
Two Mexican guys.
Marquez Corrales, yeah.
Yeah, there's two.
The one that you thought was live and was 8 years old.
Yeah, it was one of the greatest. I was like, oh my god, Jay, what on this fight? So that fight was one of the craziest fights I've ever seen. So there's better fights. But the Thriller to Manila, when you add in the rivalry, you add in the good guy, the bad guy, you had
the spectacle.
Corner, when you add in Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler, you don't have these big wars. Oh, which side are you on, Alvarez or Chandler? Which to me is why this to me can go down as. I think this is a springboard to even bigger things than MMA. I think this is. I think 10 years from now we'll look back at this fight and we'll remember this one as wow. You remember that night? Where were you that night? Who were you with? Who were you watching with? I think this will fall down in that.
That's why it's so important to have one more. A trilogy is transcendent. A trilogy goes beyond the sport. It gets casuals into it. Gotti Ward. Gotti was a somewhat popular fighter among casuals, but Ward, he was a lot of people, except if you were from the East Coast, you heard of him because you're a mass guy. But the trilogy made that fight transcendent. Same thing with Ali and Frazier. A trilogy, there's just something about a trilogy that makes it transcend. That's why it's so important to have that third fight. I think that third fight, even if it's a blowout, it's important to have that third fight. You put a stamp on who the real winner is of the series. You can't have it end 1-1.
So Jay, I was watching this fight at Buffalo Wild Wings. It just had me thinking. So that all the casuals are all over the place. I hate casuals. They're all over the place. All fight experts. Everyone knows. And had me thinking about the popularity of Conor McGregor. Now, Jay will testify. I am not a bleeding heart liberal. I am not one of them. Not even close.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed about Conor McGregor, he transcends the sport like no fighter I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He talks trash, and he's known as being funny. He talks trash. Oh, he's confident. He says it like it is. Richard Sherman talks trash, and he's a cocky asshole. Floyd Mayweather talks trash. He's a cocky asshole. Conor McGregor wears a suit. Oh, he's classy. You got dressed for success. Richard Sherman wears a suit. Oh, he's flashy. He's all about the bling. He's all about the money.
I think people say that about McGregor though too, though. But I think McGregor's shtick is more of like he's never been like in trouble outside the ring. He comes off as an asshole to sell the fight, and I think people get that. The thing is, I mean, you either like it or you don't. I think he comes across like Ali did. Ali was a genius. Ali did it in a genius type of way. He also did it in a political type. I mean, that's a whole different thing. I don't want to get into that. But he did it when he came across and did it. He seemed natural. Conor seems natural. There's guys like this guy Mike Perry and these other guys who talk shit. It just doesn't work. With McGregor, he just has it. He has that charisma that's unexplained. You're just born with it, and he comes across like either you hate it, you might hate the guy for doing it, or you love it. I love it because just the way he comes across. But either way, he wins, just like Floyd did. You either tune in to see him because you want to see his ass beat, or you tune in to see him because you love the guy. So he does it right. He comes across. He has that it. He has that charisma. I can't explain it, and he has that like $1 million man character. Like I want money. I want this. I want that. But like he says, he's humble in victory and humble in defeat. If you notice after the fights, that act stops. The act is only before the fight.
I've heard him say that, but I've never understood why people say he's humble in victory. Go tell it to Chad Mendez.
But you know what though?
Go tell that to Jose Aldo that he's humble in victory.
I mean, in the 10 seconds after the fight, he was very humble.
He was.
Yeah.
And then he runs up. He's wondering why, because he has to sell his next fight.
I mean,
he's always selling.
I can think of 2 guys in history that didn't do that: Tito Ortiz and Brock Lesnar. That's it. That's the only guys I can think of. People will talk shit about Ronda Rousey. I've seen Ronda Rousey shake hands after. I mean, she shook Beth Correa. Beth Correa made very insensitive remarks about, suicide and this shit. Ronda Rousey's dad committed suicide, and it's awful. And she shook her hand after this. So,
Yeah, but you know what? You know what killed? You know what killed Rousey though? The Rousey thing, how she handled the Tate fights, kind of showed a side of her that people didn't like. Tate tried to go to her and say, in a good fight. Yeah. So I mean that Rousey has a little bit of that asshole in her, which I said this to you before. I don't think she ever fights again, Rousey. I think she's a second coming of Gina Carano. I know as this, it's not one of the topics, so it's on about. I just think when a girl like that is so dominant and you get your ass kicked like that, it just takes something from you mentally. I don't think she wants it anymore, to be honest with you. But that's another topic for another day.
I was trying to get the ratings up by pushing the race card and having you blow your mind. But
Yeah.
you didn't.
I won't fall for it. I won't fall for that nonsense.
I was trying to have you lose your mind.
I knew that's what you were doing. I knew that's where you were going. Richard Sherman. Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna bite. Well, the Irish.
I was poking it.
The Irish.
But if you
The
look at
Irish.
it, it's true.
Yeah.
I truly believe if Conor McGregor was black, a lot of people would think he was a cocky asshole.
A lot of people do think he's a cocky asshole. You think he's a cocky asshole? He's white.
No,
there's a lot of people who hate McGregor.
My issue with Conor McGregor has always been the same thing. I hate his fans. I hate when casuals come out and go, "See, I told you so." All of this stuff. Oh, my boy, and all these guys, these casual. They think they know all this shit about MMA. And I've always hated I hate fake Irish people. I hate the fake Italian people. I hate the fake Portuguese people. And this is way off topic, but fuck it. I'm an American. I love America. I don't give a fuck about any other country in the world. I am married to a Canadian, born and raised in Canada. My wife is a citizen in Canada. I don't give a fuck about Canada. All right? When people say, "Oh, what nationality are you?" I don't say I'm Irish. I'm American. If someone went over to Ireland, all these fake Irish, especially the ones in Boston, go over to Ireland, they're not gonna say, "Oh, look at the Irish guy." They say, "Oh, look at the American." And I see these people who care about a country they may have been to once in their life more than they care about the country they live in. I grew up in East Providence, big Portuguese area. Portugal plays America in World Cup. They're all cheering for Portugal because they care about some country they went to twice in their life over the greatest country in the world.
It's ingrained though. It's an East Coast. It's an East Coast thing though too. It's an East Coast
that's
thing.
That's what it comes down to. I hate walking into a fight and seeing Irish flags all over the place and no American flags. I hate that.
Yeah, but
Conor McGregor fights Chad Mendez. If you want to root for Conor McGregor, because you like his style, you like his talk, you like all this shit, but to root for him because he's Irish when you're going against American.
Yeah, but the thing is though, you got to remember too.
You get some solid USA chants in fights that you never really thought you'd hear them.
They were saying in the Diaz fight you could hear the USA chants a little bit, but you got to understand too. You got 3,000 to 5,000 Irish fans You got 3 to 5,000 Irish fans traveling. So those people holding the Irish flag are Irish. They traveled from Ireland to go see McGregor.
I was in Boston when he fought Holloway before the
Yeah.
big hype, and it was still these wannabe Boston Irish
Oh well, you
people.
got in Boston. Though in Boston, you got a ton of Irish people, Irish Americans. So I mean, Americans of Irish descent, however you want to say it. But I mean, the thing is, it's so ingrained over here. I mean, it does. I mean, I'm from Rhode Island. Keith's from Rhode Island. Justin, where are you from?
Philly.
Philly. So Philly, you kind of know. Philly's got a pretty big Italian population in certain areas.
Yep.
It's just ingrained in us. Like I say, and I shouldn't say it because I am an American first. But if someone asks me what I am, I always say I'm Italian and Irish. But I should say I'm American of Italian and Irish descent. But it's just a natural thing, you gravitate to what you are, you know what I mean? My great grandfather was born in Ireland. So I mean, my grandfather was here, he was Irish, and he was proud to be Irish because his father was born in Ireland. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's part of the reason why I root for him, but mostly because of his fight style and his brashness. That's what turned me on to him, and then the Irish was just a bonus.
So it goes back to what I've always said. I mean, I've said this before, so it wasn't like a hot take or anything. But Michael Page is basically Conor McGregor. They're the same fighter. They're both flashy stand-up guys. Even the karate style stances. They both talk a lot of shit. They're both actually very humble when they win. But Michael Page is a cocky asshole everyone hates, and he's a thug, and he's like. But Conor McGregor, he had a little accent, put him from the home country. And now he just tells it like it is. He's the one.
But you know what though? You got a lot of people who still call McGregor a punk and a thug. It depends on who you talk to.
He is a thug.
Keith, it's like watching a football game. Your team doesn't commit any penalties.
Exactly.
He was definitely in bounds. He definitely broke the paint.
Exactly.
It's that bias that you don't admit it's there, but it's there.
Yep. Exactly.
The very fact that the Conor McGregor, the nut huggers, when he threw a bottle, and I know he was provoked. I know I'm not even saying his brother was just as bad. But when he threw a bottle that hit a kid and he wouldn't even apologize about it and he blamed Nate for it, to me that's a dickhead move. Just apologize. Say, I was trying to throw a Nate. I apologize. I shouldn't have acted that way. Act more professional.
But Nate did throw the bottles first. Nate did throw the bottles first. He
so
did.
You throw it again.
But you're still responsible for your own actions.
No, I hear you. That crosses the line. That crosses the line. Conor should apologize for that, but Nate and his American Me posse started it first. They were the ones throwing the bottles first.
The very fact that McGregor nut huggers won't even say, "Oh yeah, he was an asshole for showing up to the press conference a half hour late." I mean, come on.
Right,
Conor can do no wrong.
All right, anyway, let's quickly move on to this.
Tom Brady has never showed up to a press conference.
Here we go.
I wish I wore my Conor McGregor. I have a Conor McGregor UFC shirt, and it's in the dirty clothes. I wish I wore it. Oh, I wish I wore it. Little alcohol in the wound for Keith. I wish I wore it.
Let's all cheer for some third world country.
I'm gonna wear it next time.
All right, so let's briefly talk about this main event on the Fox card tomorrow. Starts at 8 o'clock. Maia versus Condit. Who?
We're setting the record for the longest show ever.
Yeah, this is absolutely. We're coming up on 2 hours.
Jesus Christ! This is the last question.
Yeah, this is the end of it.
Let's wrap this up. It's like a marathon. Do you want to go, Keith?
Yeah,
this is the end of it.
This fight.
All right,
I'm gonna tell you right now. Whoever I pick, I'm gonna pick wrong because this is the fight that. I mean, this fight is so hard to pick. This is such a great matchup. It's your classic striker versus grappler. I mean, anybody who says Damian Maia can stand on the feet with Carlos Condit is absolutely insane. Anybody who says that Carlos Condit can go to the ground with Damian Maia is absolutely insane. I've heard people say, "Oh, Carlos Condit's going to the ground with these guys." Damian Maia is the greatest jiu-jitsu guy in MMA, period, ever. He's number one. He's the best guy ever. He can win matches. He can beat the best guys in the world without even punching them. Straight wrestling. So, at the end of the fight, I'm going to say, it's just one of those fights I know I'm going to pick wrong, and then I'm going to say, well, of course that guy was going to win that way. Of course, I mean, I should have saw that all along. I'm probably going to flip-flop 10 times in the next 2 days. Give me Condit, 25 minutes. I've seen Maia. Maia's been hurt before. But if Maia takes Condit has weak takedown defense. That's the weak. He's very good on the ground, and he's striking. I mean, his striking is one of the best in MMA. A high volume. In the clinch, underrated wrestler, taking him down and locking him to submission, him out for 5 rounds. But just give me the pure volume of Maia. I think eventually Maia Condit. I especially second, third round. I think eventually he'll start slowing Maia down, keep it on the feet, and win rounds. But I expect it to be really close. I don't expect a knockout. But my caveat is like I could totally see Maia winning a boring, humping his back kind of fight. So
I think Maia's been on a roll. I think 170 is the correct weight. I think 185. When he was at 185, I just don't think he was big enough for 185. 170 is perfect for him because he can wall guys. I'm not a big Maia fan. I think he's boring as hell. I think he's basically he humps your back to submission. But you know what, though? You have to stop that. I mean, you have to learn to stop that. If you can't stop that, that's on you. So if you're a Condit, you got to make sure it stays on the feet. You got to make sure that you like Keith said, Condit's one of my favorite fighters too. So I'm kind of biased, but he has to make sure it stays on the feet. A lot of strikes, a lot of leg kicks to keep Maia away. Everything long jabs, long jab, long kick. Don't get caught tight because Maia will take you down, and once it's down, it's over because he's happy to hump you to a win. Not my favorite style, not my favorite fighter. I do respect the guy. Maia's a humble guy. If you watch that Roll to the UFC on Fox, the one that's on, you can see it on YouTube or whatever. Maia's a family guy. Seems like a good guy. His style of fighting just bores the shit out of me. I think Condit is going to win. I don't see a stoppage either. I see a kind of like a ho-hum 5-round fight. Condit wins 3 rounds to 2, 4 rounds to 1 just based on strikes. But if Maia gets it to the ground, it's going to be a long night for Condit. But I pick Condit by decision.
this could have the that Anderson Silva Talis Leites feel where a guy is so I can see Condit so terrified of the takedowns that he wins this boring, moving, jabbing, slow pace, 25-minute fight.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You know what? The best thing for him to do is jab, jab, walk. Jab, jab, walk. Jab, jab, leg kick, walk. Jab, jab. Because his length and his variety of strikes, it's going to cause a big problem for Maia because Maia just on his feet, Maia's terrible, and he's going to look even worse against a striker with the capabilities of Condit. Condit's he's an excellent striker, one of the top 5 overall in MMA. But he has to be smart, though. Don't go crazy. Don't try for the knockout. Jab, jab, leg kick, jab, jab, go out, jab, jab. Same. It's going to be just one of those type of fights.
Condit has a lot of power that he doesn't get credit for. I mean, his knockout with Dan Hardy is one of the greatest knockouts ever. I mean, you heard
that left hook was vicious. Yeah.
He had Robbie Lawler doing the chicken dance a lot.
Yep.
And Dave Ryan's been hurt before. I mean, he got knocked out by Nate Marquardt. One of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen. So, if Condit catches him, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Matt Brown hurt him in the 3rd round of their fight.
Yeah. It's just that Brown just couldn't keep him off him. No. That's the thing. When you throw power shots like that, you got to be in the pocket. And if you get too close to Maia, you risk. And if you throw a lazy leg kick, you risk Maia taking you down. So I think Condit plays it safe. I mean, if he gets him hurt, he'll go for the kill. But I think he plays it safe and rides out a decision. But I can see a knockout, and I can see Maia fucking his back until he gets a win. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But I think Condit wins that fight.
Yeah, Justin, who you got?
You guys are thinking the slow, boring fight. I'm thinking Condit does catch him, and he catches him relatively early, sometime in the 2nd round, and then he pounces. Fight over. I got a 2nd round knockout for Condit, but I can't disagree with anything you guys said. He does have to be safe because, he misses on any of those power strikes that he tries to throw. Like you guys said, it's going to the ground, and that's a whole different fight down there. It flip-flops the advantage completely.
Real quick, before we forget, there's 2 spots open still in the DraftKings, so make sure we fill that. Got your UFC Pick'em League picks in. Next week is it next week? UFC 203. So we'll have a another league for that. We'll have a with me and Zach. We'll do another great debate. He's up 3-2 now, and the rankings will come out soon after that. So a lot of good stuff, and we'll have another episode sometime next week with another special guest. Probably won't go 2 hours though.
Well, we won't have quite the same level of fighters to talk about after this one.
Short and sweet.
I'll sit here and drool over
speed
page for an
background
hour.
wasn't that quick either.
Yeah, we'll
it took a little bit.
reapproach that. We'll reapproach
that was a heavy background. That was definitely a heavy background. That wasn't a speed background.
We'll reapproach that for sure.
I'm blaming Jay Martin because I've done this show 3 times now, and I have 2 other guests. We've both done it in an hour. So Jay Martin's the one who takes.
Yeah, it's me. I'm the windbag.
All right, fellas, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Anybody who watched, we appreciate it. Glad to have you guys, and we're signing off till next week. Take it
Thanks,
easy.
Justin. Thanks.